In 710, she walked into the imperial court and pulled the emperor off the dragon seat in front of every official in the room. Then she put her own brother on that same throne. She had helped force her own mother, Wu Zetian, to step down. Years later, she helped destroy Empress Wei's faction in a single night. After that, affairs of state, punishments, and rewards all had to pass through her hands. Her title was Princess Taiping. Her real name was never recorded. She never became emperor, but for a few years, imperial power could not move without her. She survived 4 coups, 3 emperors, and every political purge that came near her. But in the end, she was defeated by the emperor she had personally helped raise to power. That emperor would send soldiers to her own door, and she would wait for them inside. Her mother was Wu Zetian, the only woman to sit on the Chinese imperial throne in her own name. Taiping grew up by watching. Whenever her mother walked through a corridor, the officials on both sides stopped and stepped back. Taiping noticed who moved first. She saw the benefits of power. In 688, Taiping married at 17. The procession stretched over a mile through Chang'an. By the time the front convoy reached the groom's estate, the tail was still at Taiping's gate. Thousands of torches lit the entire city. People could see it from the rooftops. 3 years later, her husband's brother joined a failed rebellion. Her husband had done nothing. He was still arrested and died in prison. Taiping was pregnant. Her mother, Wu Zetian, was the most powerful person in the entire empire, and she did nothing. To compensate Taiping, Wu Zetian gave her more land, more money, and arranged another marriage. She found a man from a noble family. The only obstacle was that he already had a wife. Wu Zetian had his wife killed. That was the solution. Taiping accepted the marriage. She moved into his estate. From that day on, she stopped asking who would protect her. She began watching who had the power to decide other people's lives. By 705, 2 of Wu Zetian's most trusted ministers had already controlled the court. Senior officials came to Taiping with a plan to remove them. She agreed. The coup took 1 night. Both men were killed. Her mother stepped down. For her role, Taiping received something no woman in Tang history had received before: a military title, Defender of the State. After the coup, her brother took the throne. But 5 years later, he died. The official record says illness. Her brother's wife, Empress Wei, placed a child on the dragon seat and controlled the empire from behind him. Taiping saw the chance to control the empire. Her nephew, Li Longji, held military power and had the courage to launch a coup. Taiping had her own son join Li Longji to launch a coup and carry out a midnight strike against the Empress's faction. After the coup succeeded, Taiping gained the power to decide who could sit on the throne. She chose her brother, Li Longji's father, Li Dan, Emperor Rizong. Li Longji won the coup. Taiping gained the power to control the empire. She placed her own brother on the throne and put herself back in control of the empire. After that, everything in the empire had to pass through Taiping's decisions. After her brother Emperor Ruizong took the throne, Taiping built her own system. Every petition was sent to her residence first, then to the emperor. The 5 prime ministers she promoted helped her control the court and showed everyone who really decided a man's rise. But there was one thing Taiping had not noticed. The crown prince Li Longji had been quietly building his own network, secretly buying off generals and officials Taiping had not promoted. When Taiping discovered this, she began looking for a way to stop him. Taiping's plan was to send an astrologer to Emperor Rizong with a star chart showing that a change on the throne was coming. She calculated that Rizong would read it as a warning about Li Longji and cut Li Longji's power before things went out of control. Rizong read the star chart and reached the completely wrong conclusion. He believed the stars were telling him it was time for him to step down. Ruizong did not warn Li Longji. Instead, he abdicated and handed the throne directly to the person Taiping most needed to keep away from it. Li Longji became emperor. The first time, Taiping chose to stand with Li Longji. The second time, her own plan put him on the throne. In 25 years of controlling the Tang court, Taiping had never made a mistake she could not recover from. This was the first one, and it caused the empire she controlled to collapse. July 29th, 713. An hour before dawn, 300 soldiers entered the palace through a side gate. Li Longji struck first at the people who could help Taiping. Her guard commanders were killed before they could give a single order. Her prime ministers were hunted down, some caught at their desks, others fleeing the city and dying before they could return. Taiping woke to the sound of soldiers moving through the palace district. She knew it immediately. This was a coup. She tried to send orders out, but no answer came back. The men who could command soldiers for her were already dead. For hours, the reports kept arriving. Guard commanders killed, ministers arrested, palace gates sealed. By midday, the house that once received the empire's officials could no longer send out a single useful order. She fled to a Buddhist temple outside the capital and stayed hidden for 3 days. She waited for news from old guard allies, from prime ministers, from anyone still willing to risk themselves for her. But no one came. By the third day, she gave up resisting. So she came home. Ruizong begged for the sister who had once made him emperor. Li Longji refused. Princess Taiping was executed in her own home. Taiping was executed in 713. Li Longji immediately sent officials to seize and catalog everything she had owned. It took years to document the estates, treasures, and objects inside her house. The inventory was never fully completed. Her children were executed, all except one, the son she had once punished for opposing her hold on power. Taiping had punished him for resisting her. Li Longji spared him for the same reason. The same gate where officials once waited for her approval became the gate soldiers sealed after her death. After Taiping's death, Li Longji's court wrote the record of her rebellion and placed every charge on her. Li Longji ruled for 44 years. His reign became the Kaiyuan Golden Age, remembered as the height of the Tang dynasty. And Princess Taiping, the woman who once helped Li Longji reach the throne, became a name most people today have never heard. Princess Taiping never became emperor. But when she fell, the court cleaned out her house like it was removing a throne.